So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to my iPhone 13 Pro 3 months later pros and cons video. Now in this episode, we're going to take a look at this iPhone 13 Pro, and I'm just going to share with you what I found to be pros and what I found to be cons. Now one, and that is the Sierra blue color. I kind of wish I got this on the 13 Pro Max, to be quite fair. At first, I was not a big fan. I was more of a fan of that midnight green that came with the iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max. But once I seen this in person, this looks fantastic. It actually is a subtle baby blue-like color, and it has some gray infused in it. It's just a really nice color, and the stainless steel edges look really good on this phone as well. So that's my first major pro of my 13 Pro, is simply the Sierra blue color. Some people say that's not a feature. Well, we'll get on to some features. The second one is the camera system. Now, I already mentioned about the photographic styles that come with the 13 series, but for this one, what I really enjoy about the camera on this system is that just the portable size of it. You know, you're having that large camera system, and some people think this is a problem because, you know, it rocks a little bit on the table because it's such a huge, you know, camera bump on a smaller body, 6.1 inch. But I actually really love it because with having this, you have a portable powerhouse right here. Whereas the iPhone 13 Pro Max, you look at that, it's kind of obvious you're going to have a great camera, huge phone, you would expect a great camera. But here for the smaller 13 Pro, you are getting similar feature set, exactly the same setup. So that felt amazing. I just love the size, the portability, and the powerhouse camera that Apple decided to put in this one, as well as the Max device. So that's pretty nice for this device. There's no real sacrifices with this one. The third one is the battery life on this device. So the battery life, while it doesn't blow me away for the iPhone 13 Pro, it also deserves some praise here because it's still really good, and it's enough for you to not have to choose a larger iPhone if you don't want to choose the larger iPhone in the Max. Meaning that it's still good enough for a day, and before you would actually always really want to go with the larger device to get the much better battery life. But the difference this year is about an hour or so, which can be substantial for some, but I don't think it's enough for you to say, I gotta go get the Max and deal with the uncomfort factor if you want the more comfortable 6.1 inch size range in this iPhone 13 Pro. Now the next pro is just the sheer speed of this device. With the Apple A15, ever since the A14, the 15, the M1 CPUs, these phones just are very impressive with the speed. I always feel like I'm using a MacBook when it comes to the actual performance on these phones. Now, there is some thermal throttling on the CPU. If you do get it too hot, it will throttle down, but that's to be expected. But this device overall, I mean, it's just ridiculous how fast everything operates. It's really enjoyable. And, you know, this and the 120 hertz combined really show off its power with the A15. So 6 gigabytes of RAM, not the highest on the market, but I'll take it. I gotta say, I'm very happy with the overall performance with this. Definitely goes in my pro for pro number 4. Surprisingly, this phone actually didn't crash for me as many times as I had on the iPhone 13 Pro Max. It's weird, like I've never had really any crashes. On the 13 Pro Max, sometimes the App Store would just randomly crash. A couple apps would just randomly crash. And if you haven't checked it out already, there was a software update yesterday, iOS 15.2, so go ahead and get that if you haven't already. Now, number 5 is ProMotion, and not why, because we talked about before, we know it's smooth, but I think it's so great on this phone because it's the smallest Apple product to feature the ProMotion display. So if you wanted ProMotion before, you'd have to get an iPad, or you could get the Max this year, but this one is a smaller version of that, and it's just kind of cool to have it on here. I really enjoy having the smallest Apple device here with ProMotion. So the most portable way to experience Apple's smooth 120 hertz. And 120 hertz on the iPhone actually feels a little bit different than on other devices just because Apple software has some really smooth animations. It's one of the most smooth experiences you can get on a phone today. So that's why a lot of people rave about it. And it does switch between 10 hertz all the way up to 120 hertz. So it can preserve battery life as well. So I gotta say, I really enjoy the size factor of this phone with the ProMotion. So let's get on to the cons of this device. Cons. The first one is this phone is just too heavy for its size. Now this phone weighs more than prior iPhone 11 Pro, prior iPhone 12 Pro. I'm gonna go ahead and weigh it for you here and show you what I'm talking about. you'll see this phone comes in well over 200 grams. Now, I seen a rating before of 204. This one's saying 215. This phone is well over, let's just put it this way, it's over 200 grams, and that actually puts this phone in the weight range of something like a Max device in the past, or even a Plus device. So there's a lot of weight to this. Now, on the flip side, you might enjoy that if you like a substantial feeling phone. It kind of feels like a little Leica camera or something like that. Just a little, it's got some weight to it. But at the same time, this phone right here is kind of heavy for its size. Con number 2 is that the cameras feel kind of huge. And they're so big, in fact, that I find myself often when I'm holding this, I'll just accidentally like smear my finger over the lens and then I get all smudgy. Or I'll be holding it up here and look at the middle of my index finger is covering it. Or if you hold it like I'm just constantly touching the camera bump because it's so big. And like, what am I going to do? Have to hold my hand down here all weird like that? Like, no, like I'm going to hold it normal. And I just find myself constantly rubbing my finger over the back of this phone just because the camera bump is huge. Now, I wouldn't want them to get rid of that just because of that little pet peeve. But at the same time, you know, it also rocks on the table, like I mentioned before. At the same time, I really enjoy the beautiful camera system in there. I just find it a little bit of a con of how large they are for the size of this phone. You know, just because, you know, they get in the way a lot and they just feel huge. But at the same time, you know, if you're wearing a case on this phone or putting a case on this phone and covering up this area, that would be a non-factor anymore. But the phone itself, by itself without a case, that is noticeable. And my next con is the boring looks of this phone. Now, we have the notch, we have the flat screen on the front, the squared body, we have the premium feel on the back. Don't get me wrong, this is a stunningly beautiful design. It is premium. However, I'm talking about year over year, we getting similar kind of feel. Like, take a look at the 11 Pro, the 12 Pro, in this phone. You're going to think it's a pretty similar phone. It kind of reminds me of car manufacturers when they tweak a headlight or they change a tail light. Or they change a little thing inside the interior, just a couple little tweaks, you know, bestseller, just to make sure it looks somewhat new, but it doesn't have to rock the boat too much. That's what this phone feels like. It doesn't feel like anything special, whereas Samsung throws out Galaxy Z Fold, Z Flip 3, we're like, hey, look at this, brand new, bam. Like, it's just so much different from like the S series, but this device right here is playing it safe once again. Not that that's bad, a lot of people love it, and these were hard to get when they first came out. But I'm just saying, it's just a little bit boring. I find that to be a con. I just want to see Apple do something a little bit different at this point. I think we need one of those iPhone 10-like years again, where the phone just feels super different than the prior devices. We'll see what they can do going forward. I'm not sure if they can. They've already thinned out the bezels. They could remove the notch, if possible, put the Face ID under display. They could figure that out, or even some people are saying a punch hole. I don't know if they're going to go there. But there's not much you could probably do at this point, but still the device, just a little bit boring, I would say, looking. Con number 4 is this phone just doesn't charge fast enough. I said this about the Max, and this one gets on that same list for me. It's just, you know, OnePlus 9 just charges so much quicker, as well as some Samsung devices I have tried can charge faster than this. So this phone just not that quick to charge. I think Apple can upgrade this, give us ridiculous fast charging in the future. That would be amazing. Some would say I would like to see USB-C as well. I would kind of like to see that as well. Might as well. They're already putting it on the iPad Pros. Why not put it here? And my final con is the notch is gotta go for me. I just don't like it because my dream phone is an all-screen iPhone. And you know what's funny? On some advertisements, you'll see like them trying to advertise an iPhone. They don't want to get sued, so they just cover up the notch. But they basically took the iPhone's design and they'll pretend like it's a, you know, full screen iPhone when that doesn't even exist yet. But I just want to see this all screen. I mean, that's like perfection. Once they hit that, maybe they can flatten the cameras. I don't know if they can flatten the cameras out. To have all that power, you kind of have to have something sticking off the edge. I mean, look at actual cameras. They come out of the body. So I don't know if they could change that. But really, this overall, you know, all screen would just really complete this device right here. I feel like even if they went to Touch ID right here, it would just be the complete look of this phone. So overall, I would say though that the pros definitely outweigh my cons. My cons could come off a little bit petty, a little bit pet peevish, but at the same time, you know, I haven't felt like this has been a bad pickup of a device. I just hope Apple shakes it up a bit. I think the iPhone lineup is getting a little bit stale year to year. If you look over from last year to the prior year to this year, like, you know, people use 11 Pro and Pro Max aren't really missing too much with this device. Yeah, there's some feature upgrades, but it ain't the end of the world if you don't pick one of these up. And I think that's a bad thing because we want it to feel like, man, that thing is so much newer. I want to really try that experience out. And it kind of doesn't feel like that all the time. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section of this video. iPhone 13 Pro, amazing phone. Do you have one? Have you been enjoying it? Do you plan on picking one up? Any more questions, leave them down below as well. Thumbs up if you haven't already. Nick here helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well and subscribe for more. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.